Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Move Again podcast, where we take a moment to recap what God has been saying and doing in the life of our community, across our church at large, Life Change Church, across our city, as we plow through the book of Exodus and see God calling us to move again. This is Michael.
Yeah.
And this is Gabe, and we are pastors in the Life Change story, and welcome. And it's so good to have you with us, Mike. This past Sunday, we had Mark preaching across our congregation. It's a sermon titled, The Exodus of My Heart. And he took us through the narrative of the Exodus series as we come to the last few weeks of this amazing series, and almost got us right to the end, the precipice of Exodus chapter 40 and what God was doing this whole narrative. What did you take away from this past Sunday?
Well, look, I love this series, and I love that actually God is shifting something in my heart, but shifting something in the hearts of people in our community. And He really wants us to move again, be on the move, but it's more than just a move of the Israelites out of Egypt, just being freed from Egypt. Actually, He's after their hearts. He's after them as a people and Him to be their God. And so He wants our hearts, and He wants our lives to be shaped and transformed around that fact. And so the Exodus is actually us leaving our old self behind and pursuing God and becoming new in His image, essentially.
It starts in our hearts, not our feet, as Mark said. And we've used that phrase again and again, that actually the grand narrative of the Exodus was that God wanted to take them, yes, physically out of Egypt, but then the journey in the wilderness is taking Egypt out of them.
Which I think is an amazing, beautiful picture of what our daily lives are like.
What He still does with us. And I think that is a huge thing. And I love the title, The Exodus of My Heart. It's not a Celine Dion song from the 90s.
It may be, but
but we Googled it, and it's actually the lyrics from the song.
The Exodus of my heart from Egypt. Bethel.
Yeah, there we go. Wonderful. Corey Asprey, I think.
That's why I'm not a worship leader.
We'll sing it maybe at the end if you stick around. But Mark mentioned these words, saying that the word Exodus actually means the way out. And he just showed us that actually God is taking us out of, He's taking us through, but then He's also taking us into. And I think that's been a massive narrative, a thrust of the whole series. But his point one was trusting God in what we are leaving behind. Maybe help unpack that a little bit for us.
Well, look, I think that we need to understand that actually we are called to leave things behind as God's people. We are called to leave behind the idols. We are called to leave behind the cultures of that day. Just as the Israelites left Egypt, they left things behind. They needed to go on a journey of becoming more like God and His people. And so we have to leave these things behind in order to become what God wants us to be.
Brilliant.
And so we really do need to go on this journey of actually asking God, looking at our own lives, and what do I need to let go of in order to take hold of the promises that God wants me to take hold of?
Yeah. And there's that in Luke 17, there's that passage where Jesus is preaching, and he almost preaches this most incredibly powerful 3-word sermon. He just says, remember Lot's wife. And that's a throwback to the book of Genesis, where Lot and his wife and his family are leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, and God is taking them out of this debaucherous place and taking them into a new place. And all his instruction to him was saying, I'll do all the work, but you just have to not look back. And she could not do that. She looked back. Lot's wife looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt. And so when Jesus says, remember Lot's wife, it's almost just this powerful encouragement, just to have that in the forefront, that actually our job is to not look back. Our job is to be moving forward. It's so easy. Our hearts have this, we are prone to be pulled back by slave masters. We pulled back into addictions, pulled back into bad cycles, pulled back into emotional states that once captivate us. And actually God is saying, no, I want to set you free from that. So we need to break the cycle. And I think that's the invitation of this journey, this exodus of my heart, is getting set free from that cycle of going back and keep going back.
Don't look back, but actually we need to fix our eyes on Him. So there's a not looking back, but then we need to fix our eyes on something. And what are we fixing our eyes on? Him. It needs to be Him, His promises, and that's actually moving through then.
And that takes the second point, as actually Mark said, trusting God looks like not looking back. Trusting God also in the moving through, in the moving through the wilderness and not getting stuck. And actually, he had this incredible phrase, and I think it's worth writing down if you are watching at home. Or
grab a pen or paper or whatever you need.
Tattoo it onto your arm, but saying that actually God's moving us from a buying and selling economy to a sowing and reaping economy. And that's so, for me, so profound. It's really stuck out to me because we realize these Israelites were slaves for 430 years. They had bought into an economy that they were defined by the number of bricks they made every day. They were defined by a Pharaoh's demands. And actually, if you don't meet the quota, you don't eat type reality. And that's the cycle of our world, where God takes them out of Egypt, and in the wilderness, He starts to teach them that He is Jehovah Jireh. He is their provider. He's their source. That actually they are not living on what they do. They actually are just receiving manna, receiving quail, receiving water from a rock, and learning a new system actually of sowing and reaping. maybe for you in a personal manner, what stuck out to you about that?
Well, I think it's exactly that, is that it's not buying or selling, but actually we need to trust in God.
Yeah.
So we need to trust in God for everything, for
Yes.
everything in life, that He is sufficient for all of our needs,
Yeah.
that He is not only the resource, but He is the source of all life.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
so the Israelites, He's taking them on a journey of becoming more like Him, but showing them who He is,
Yeah.
His character,
Yeah.
His provision, that
Huge.
actually He's the God who will never leave them nor forsake them. And we need to understand that not only must we trust for provision or
Yes.
maybe wealth or whatever those things, but do we want peace? Do
Yeah.
we want a healthy family? Do we want a good marriage? Well, who are we going to for those
Yeah.
things? And
Brilliant.
we need to trust Him in all of our ways, in every moment.
Yeah.
And
So-
He's doing that in my heart.
I love that, and I think that it's so relevant for us. It's not this ethereal concept,
Yeah.
spiritual. It's got to hit us in where we are. That actually, this is not just their story. This is our story. This is what God is doing in
Yeah.
us. The exodus of my heart, not someone else's heart. And as Mark just helped us understand that the currency that we need to operate with is trust, and
Yeah.
it's so hard. We live in a trust deficit world, and so he broke it down. Trust is not looking back. Trust is actually in the moving through, actually
Yeah.
not getting stuck. And then finally, the trust is realizing that He will always be with us. And that's how Exodus 40 lands. And in verse 36 to 38, it just says, in all their travels and in the sight of all the Israelites, God was with them.
Yeah.
And it says, in all their travels, in every little step, in all the big decisions, and all the small decisions, He was with them. And I think that's just so
Yeah,
profound
I
in
love
this understanding this concept of trust, that it's not just some trust in something of a one-day win. It's a trust that God is with us in the
Yeah.
here and now.
And I love how that ends. Is that, when He moved, they moved, and when He did
That's
not
it.
move, they did not move. And that's actually what trust looks like.
Yeah.
So it's not just trusting for us,
Yeah.
but actually will we trust that God will shape and transform our lives,
Yes.
that His word will be the
Come
anchor
on.
to our hearts, but it will also guide us and
Yes.
lead us. And so how are we making decisions in life? Are we just going after things based on our strategies or abilities, or trying to make a quick buck here
Yeah.
and there, or trying to sort this problem out? Or are we trusting that
Yes.
He will provide, that His promises will come true, and when we are to make big decisions or whatever that may be, actually that He will speak and lead. And if He doesn't, we don't move.
Yeah.
We keep on trusting. We keep on
Brilliant.
waiting, because He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so that's what He's trying to teach us. It's about our hearts, not just about the actions.
And I think that's the crux of the series. We're moving into the last few weeks of it, and we are really wanting to make it practical. We don't want to
Yeah.
just leave this in good Bible story and more Bible information. It requires obedience. That
Yeah.
is the faith and obedience. And that's what trust comes down to, actually. Will we obey even if we do not see the fruit of it right now,
Good
or
word.
the logical sense of it?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just going to step out in faith. I'm going to trust that the waters will pass apart before me. I'm going to trust that God will provide. I'm going to trust that He will be with me. He will be enough, and that actually that Egypt is done behind me. That we're moving forward. So, Life Change Church, what an absolute privilege to go on this journey.
Yeah.
Join us on Sunday. We are in the last throes of this amazing series. You don't want to miss out. If you have missed out on any of the sermons, I'd urge you,
back.
go onto YouTube
Yeah.
and you'll see all the content there. We've got great
This time
content.
you can look back.
That's the only
This is
time
the
you can
last
look
one.
back.
This-
Look back at what God has done in the series, and I'd really encourage you to go do that. We are loving what God is doing, and we cannot wait to see you
Yeah.
this weekend.
Yeah. Love you, Life Changes.